I believe that not all people are born at the same level of consciousness. I don't have any scientific evidence to back this, but I just believe that some people are born at lower rungs of awareness and some people at higher. And the word awareness does not have anything to do with knowledge, the way I see it. Being more aware to me does not mean you know something more. Being aware to me means you know you don't know something, which is where life gets really confusing because the more open your eyes are, the more open your soul is, the more frightening it can be because you realize you know less. Now I want to talk a little about some of these just different tiers I've noticed. And I think the bottom tier, and again, it's not to say that these people are stupid, but just literally ignorant people. People that are not aware that other people have different realities than them. I have noticed people in my life, and I'm sure you have too. I can think of one guy off the top of my head who goes through this world really believing he's hot shit, and everyone else just kind of looks at him like an idiot. This guy has like an unexplainably large ego. And it's not even to say that he's rude. He's not a jerk like some people are pretending to be like they're greater. This guy really believes that when bad things happen to him, it's just by some unlucky circumstance. Nothing is ever his fault. These types of people don't really feel guilty the way I think a lot of the rest of us do. They go through their life believing they're doing right, and in their reality, they are. They are as good as they think in their own world. They don't have to second guess anything because they never really think, how does this look to other people? How is this going to affect other people's reality? And a lot of times these people are not the outcasts of society you think. I've seen people like this that actually succeed because this ability to not care is kind of a superpower. They are aware of less, and so they have less to worry about, and they take what they think they deserve, which in a lot of cases is all you need to really get what you want in life. Most of us are just too nervous thinking about it. And that's the lesson we need to take from these ignorant people, because obviously we don't want to be just like them, because they lack a base level of connection with other people, because they can't leave themselves. They're kind of selfish by no fault of their own. But the lesson we do need to borrow from these people is the ability to say out loud, I deserve this, and I'm going to take it, and I'm not really going to care what it's going to do to your world, and I'm not really going to care what you're going to think about it. That sounds kind of destructive, but there is a time and a place to think like that. There is a time and a place where wondering how everyone else is going to feel about something is just going to make you stagnate. These ignorant people at the lower tiers of consciousness, awareness, have no idea that other people might feel differently about them than they feel about themselves. And what you don't know does not exist. Yes, I mean that. What you don't know does not exist. I'm not talking about the things that you don't know, like black holes, you know, they're out there somewhere, or dark matter, but you don't know what the hell it is. I'm talking about the things that literally never crossed your mind, and you will never know what those are, which just proves that they don't exist. That's the beauty of being ignorant. That's why it's bliss. Of course, we can't learn from ignorant people in this way. We can't unlearn what we know. And awareness, I don't think, is even something you really learn anyway. I think it's just you have it or you don't. And maybe it expands as you grow, but that's about it. You can't control it. So when it comes to the next tier of people, what I would call our regular people, the majority of people, the nervous people, are the people that do have awareness, that overthink what other people are thinking, that are overly curious to know what's going on in other people's realities. When, as proven by those ignorant people, most of the time it doesn't really fucking matter. So now we're a step up on the level of awareness and consciousness. And good news, now you have the ability to connect with others and not just be seen as a selfish prick or an NPC, if you will. But the challenge, because there's always a challenge when you level up in consciousness, is that now you are aware of other people, and it's scary. It's scary because you don't know, and you never will really know what these other people are thinking in their reality. You don't know how they perceive you, and that's terrifying. The only thing that we're ever really afraid of is what we don't know, and this plays right to the heart of that. When you are this kind of aware, I think you are considering too many possibilities. And for whatever reason, as humans, we tend to consider the worst possibilities as the more realistic ones. I don't know if we don't want to get our hopes up or what, but we usually count ourselves out. And let me give you an example. In being interested in someone very attractive, a lot of times people's first thought is, shoot, they're too out of my league. You start to think, I don't know what she's thinking. She must have all these other, interesting guys in her life that she could pick from. But there you go, making things up that you have no idea about. You're making inferences about someone else's reality that are only harming you, which there's no point in doing. Because whether or not you were to make that negative inference or a positive one where you guessed that, man, I must be the greatest looking guy she's ever seen. She's definitely going to go for me. No matter which one of those assumptions you make, you literally have no basis to make either one of them. They're out the window. They don't matter. Both of them are not real. They both only exist in your head. You made them all the way up. Now, I'm not saying you can trick yourself into really believing you're better than you are, that you're some Mr. Suave, Mr. Studio girl. That's a really hard thing to convince yourself of, but I am saying that you should consider the fact that you don't know. You have no idea. You have no idea what other people are thinking. I think a funny example of this I think about a lot is in the show The Office. In the later seasons when Michael meets his eventual wife, I believe, Holly, and, Michael Scott, he's like the classic weirdest guy of all time, always making like unfunny, cringy jokes in the office place. Kind of creepy. Kind of just the dude that, 99.9% of women probably wouldn't want to associate with. But then Holly starts working at the office too. And there's this scene where they start talking. I don't know, it's been a while since I've seen it. But there's a scene I remember where they start talking. And I guess they're kind of interested in each other. And Michael Scott does like a Yoda impression, I think it was. And there's this scene of Hanging in the Air where Michael Scott does a weird Yoda impression. And as the audience, you're watching it and you go, oh, here he goes. He just ruined it. She's going to be scared away now. And then a second of silence goes by and she does a Yoda impression back. And you go, what? But that's the kind of thing that happens in the real world. People are weird. Everybody's weird and we're all just hiding it a little bit. So while you can't necessarily trick yourself into being more confident, I think it might help you be more confident if you just went into every situation assuming everyone else was as weird as you are. Because it's probably true. It is true. And then this kind of brings me to a higher level of consciousness, which is really the same level of consciousness as these mid-tier people, but it's just the way they think about it differently that elevates them. And in this level, instead of being nervous and frightened about what you don't know, what you can do is be confident and accepting of those limitations. You should first and foremost trust your own perceptions, as those ignorant people do. But secondly, your responsibility as a more aware person is to be curious about what other people are thinking. Basically, I would say be confident in your own perception until proven otherwise. Because yes, you are going to fall flat on your face sometimes when your expectations don't meet up with other people's and you ask out a certain person that is not interested in you, or you try to get a job that maybe you're not ready for. But there will be an equal amount of those times, I believe, where you will be surprised at how many other people just kind of go along with you, as long as you're open to the idea that you are good enough. At the end of the day, most people are really nervous. And so if you can just be one of those few people that even hides it a little well and just takes a risky shot without being afraid to, so many more doors are going to open up to you. A fun way I like to think about it is like one of my favorite video games, Fallout, how there's the speech ability that if you put your XP points into leveling up your speech ability, certain dialogue options will open up where it'll say like speech 90%, and you basically roll the dice and there'll be like a 10% chance that that person agrees and a 90% chance that the person declines you. And the more you level up your speech ability, the more likely you are to make it happen. And that's really kind of like the real world sometimes, where you'll just be surprised, as you are in the video game, when people are just kind of just go with you as if you know what you're doing. Because it is easy to convince people that you know what you're doing when everyone is so freaking nervous themselves. So seriously, give yourself a chance. You might be surprised. You might as well assume the odds are in your favor as opposed to being stacked against you, because either way you have no idea until you try. So be curious about what's going on in other people's worlds, but don't let it worry you, because you will never know. You will live your whole life and die without ever experiencing what it's like to be somebody else. I will only ever see out of these two eyes. And so I might as well assume that what they're showing me is good enough because they're all I got. So the whole point of this basically is just trust in your own perceptions because they're all you have. And don't be afraid sometimes to be a little ignorant of other people's worlds. You don't want to be harmful to anyone else, but you don't want to restrict yourself by thinking about what are other people going to think about this? What's everyone's reaction going to be when I do this? Because you have no idea. They might love it, they might hate it. Most likely, they're not going to care at all. So, just have fun.